days have been going by so fast, I didn't even notice that I hadn't uploaded in 7 days. So the last week alone, I've been working with the footage that I've already filmed, but I never got to edit because whole ordeal with my best friend, emotionally and energetically and mentally taxing, and then importing issues with CapCut, da. So when I finally sat down to work on them, it was still super exhausting and I couldn't understand why. Until yesterday when I realized, you know what? Why am I forcing myself to go through all these footages when I could just discard them and restart? But then again, if I do that, I'd already taken such a long break from uploading. Would the spirit of the countdown still be valid? And by asking myself that question, I was able to find the answer. And I think that I like that one. So I'm gonna share that with you. Because I was editing the footage of every video, I was noticing something that I couldn't properly identify. But because it was intangible, until, a few videos later, I realized what it was. It was a mismatch. An energetic mismatch to who I was during that state, during the delivery of the message, versus who I am today. And I think that speaks to how much I've underestimated the changes or the transformation that I could go through on a day-to-day basis. That even just a tinge of energy that's off, suddenly everything is just not resonating anymore. A mismatch that I was talking about is the feeling that I was forcing something lifeless into existence. So instead of going through footage from a messy and chaotic phase over the last few weeks, I decided to cut off the dead weight and start with clean momentum. Because whether I admit it or not, the backlog was already taxing my nervous system, and that alone slowed down everything. Like, the content that I made also carried a subtle drag of obligation, and even if I wasn't saying it, you could feel it. And this is what I've always noticed with all my creations, is that there is a certain energy that I transfer in everything that I create, that whoever comes across my creation, they will feel it. They will inevitably feel it. So I didn't want to pass on that kind of energy to whoever will consume my content in the future. And there's also something about restarting that can reset my cadence by bringing fresh energy, and sometimes fresh energy produces work that's even better and faster. So I was in a different emotional context, and just because it passed a few weeks ago, it doesn't mean the imprint has disappeared in editing. I think that this is also called like the Zeigarnik effect. So the Zeigarnik effect has the tendency to remember uncompleted tasks better than what you've already completed. And the reality is, those unedited videos aren't content in waiting. They were open loops that are actively sucking the life out of my current creative energy. So in order to combat that, I decided to close the loop by deleting all the files that were piling up, because even though I have missed a lot of days, I wasn't really failing the challenge. I'm just resetting the system to match my current frequency. Now, it's not about me trying to chase better energy, but like I said earlier, I didn't want to transfer that kind of drag and low frequency over to the next consumer of my videos. So even though we don't have the words for it immediately, we can easily tell when somebody is being inauthentic. If I was feeling drained while creating those videos and you watched it, you would probably miss the message because you would rather exit out of the video than continue on with it, because the energy was so dragging and draining that you wouldn't probably pass the first minute. So I also recognize that the risk in editing those videos right now is I'm forcing myself into a survival mode frequency. And it's only just to check a box. It's akin to punching my time card to a corporate job. By that logic alone, I don't want to produce something for the sake of it. I want to produce something because I'm in an overflow. Editing that backlog is the opposite of an overflow. It's actually debt. Another reason why I decided to delete it, because I did promise that I was going to create a 3-part story on my friend's ordeal, my best friend's ordeal. But that story required intensity and clarity. And trying to clear a backlog of filler days before getting to the juicy stuff is like doing chores when I should be writing a manifesto. So the logical thing to do was just wipe it out and declare that the data from the last few weeks was processed internally, but the footage did not survive the system update. I did take note of the best parts of those videos, the core thesis, the idea, and then I took all of that, and I am adamant to recreate those videos, but in a better emotional and mental state. I think I've already been well rested, so I'm able to deliver a faster and sharper, more aligned take on it. There was also catharsis in hitting the delete all button, because it's a physical act of detachment. So in that sense, I wasn't really procrastinating because I was lazy. I was procrastinating because my brain was rejecting low frequency work. So I had to listen to that rejection. So I had a dilemma, right? I was wondering whether the countdown was still valid when I've missed so many days. So if I look at it that way, it sounds like I really failed the challenge. But if I reframe it into the very spirit of what the challenge has become, which is about a documentation of a trajectory and evolution, the countdown was just a structure, not a contract with time. So if we focus on the trajectory and the evolution, we know that trajectories and evolutions can pause, they can fracture, they can reroute, and then when you get back on it, it's still the same path. But I was feeling the tension of shame and guilt, because in the beginning I declared that I'm going to upload whatever video that I can put out. But then as I embarked on that journey in the first 30 days, it's just that it wasn't making sense to me anymore, because I felt like a car that was running out of gas, but I just kept going because I had to. Number one, I needed some time to